So I'm delighted to welcome as today's leader lunch break, Felton Thomas Jr., Executive Director and CEO of the Cleveland Public Library, one of the nation's largest and most respected library systems. A native of Las Vegas, Nevada, Felton started his library career at the remarkable age of 13 when he became the youngest page in the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. He then served as branch manager at West Las Vegas Library, also director of regional branch services for the Las Vegas Clark County Library District, and then took on the role of president of the Nevada Library Association before Cleveland was fortunate enough to capture him in 2009. Under Felton's leadership, Cleveland Public Library has embarked on an ambitious 10-year facilities master plan to renovate or rebuild all 27 of its libraries. It's also launched groundbreaking initiatives addressing community needs focused on technology, education, and economic development. And our library is consistently ranked as a 5-star library, a prestigious distinction from the Library Journal. Beyond his day-to-day passion for the Cleveland Public Library, Felton has been an incredibly active and trusted community leader, currently serving as president of the board of directors for the Cleveland School of Arts and serving on the board of trustees or directors for a number of different organizations, including our very own Cleveland Leadership Center. He's a member of the Leadership Cleveland class of 2010, and he was a 2025 Cleveland champion, where he helped us through one of our programs accelerate the advancement of rising leaders of color across our community. In today's conversation, Felton will focus on One Cleveland, a citywide civic pride campaign that is really gaining momentum. Please join me in welcoming Felton Thomas Jr. to today's Leader Lunch Break. Felton.
Thank you, Becky. And thanks everyone for joining us here today. I would have to say that as a board member of the CLC, it would be board malpractice if I didn't ask all of you to, in any way, if you can, support the lunch break series. And, there's always this donation space that is put forward there and an opportunity for folks to, if you like anything I have to say, or you like the way the series goes, to be able to help support so that we can do more lunch break series in the future. So that is my CLC commercial for the day. All right, let's get started and let's talk about One Cleveland and how One Cleveland got started. So let me give you a little bit of context about One Cleveland. 2 years ago, I was with the mayor, and the mayor wanted to do a Martin Luther King program at our East 131st branch. And we brought in a lot of young people to meet with the mayor. And the mayor was smart enough to realize giving a speech to kids about Martin Luther King on the day was probably not going to be the wisest of things. So he just kind of had the kids circle around him, and he was just asking them questions about, Black history, about Dr. King. And he was somewhat surprised, as I was, that many of the young people didn't know many of the answers to many of the questions. We had one kid who came with his father, who was the ringer, who answered every question because his father had told him everything. But other than that, the young people were really struggling. And it spoke to the realization that we needed to make sure that we were doing everything that we can to talk about civics and civic literacy. So, move forward a year, I'm sitting with the council president, Blaine Griffin, and the head of the Gun Foundation, Tony Richardson, and we're talking, and we're like, we really need to do more about civics in the city, right? There's this sense that people aren't as proud as they could be around what Cleveland has to offer. And we should be so proud of what the city has to offer because there have been so many who've come before us that have done so many wonderful things. With that, we then the library then left from that, and I went to my staff and said, let's go in the lab, let's figure out what it could be. And after starting to examine this, we started to come up with the idea that not only would this be the 250th anniversary of the United States, but it would also be the 230th anniversary of the city of Cleveland. And so on our 230th anniversary, what could we do to really promote city pride? Ultimately, One Cleveland is a citywide pride initiative, right? For us, all of us who are either in Cleveland or who are surrounded by Cleveland, we recognize the importance of believing in this city. And so we created the One Cleveland Citywide Pride Initiative with the idea of how do we create more citywide pride? And it's built off of three concepts. Let's celebrate, right? Let's all do as much as we can to celebrate the 230th anniversary, and you'll see more about how we're going to do that here. But also that we collaborate, and then as a collective, we realize that Cleveland is more than just the city of Cleveland. It's about the collective of cities around us and how we all work together. So let's talk about those three things, right? The Downtown Cleveland Alliance is working with us to create a space for all of your programs. So on here are a lot of business leaders and organizations, and many of them you have joined Downtown Cleveland. I mean, joined One Cleveland. If you are not a member of One Cleveland, I will have a website that we would love for you to go to. It's cpl.org and /CLE and join, whether it's as a small business, as my friend Cosmo, and any of you who are here who are small business owners, you could join as that. Whether it's if you are in a small organization or if you're in a big organization, we'd love One CLE to be a part of what you are supporting for the year, right? And so we have an opportunity for you to join. Right now, we have over 200 partners that are on board with One CLE, including the Leadership Center, but so many more of you who are here today are joining and a part of this, and we appreciate you for being a part of One Cleveland, right? So on Downtown Cleveland Alliance's website, you can incorporate your own programming. So if you're doing programming and you want a larger group of folks to be able to see it, you can send it into the One Cleveland website, and they will be able, through Downtown Cleveland Alliance, be able to share your program with others so that we are able to not only be able to celebrate our own programming here at Cleveland Public Library, but a litany of other programs that are available to us through what we do here in the city, right? So we do a litany of, for instance, on there you'll see not only CMA programming, you'll see programming from our friend Dan Hansen with everything that happens with our cultural programming, but it's an opportunity for us all to kind of share a what we do for the city of Cleveland with everyone. Collaborate. One of the big pieces of this is the fact that with 208 organizations that are signed on right now, and with the hope of by end of June being to 230, is that so many of us are doing similar type things, but we don't know how to share that with others. So for instance, right, there's Miss Thea over there at Legal Aid. If she wants to share the things that she's doing with others, there's One Cleveland partners are a great group to start that with. Whether she could share programming or she can reach out to some of the other organizations and say, we're thinking about doing this. Is there a way that we can also have others join us and be a part of that, right? That's kind of how we see this, the first two. And then the collective. I don't know if anybody saw earlier that Travis Kelce is buying a share into the Cleveland Guardians. Well, I mean, speaks to, well, he's from Cleveland Heights. We recognize that, everyone in the Northeast Ohio sees Cleveland as the center. They want Cleveland to succeed. And so One Cleveland isn't just a One Cleveland. I see my buddy over at the Westlake Porter Library, Andrew Mangles, who's joined us. I don't know why he's waving while driving, but that's a whole different story, right? We see that you have all these folks who are around the city who have joined this initiative, and it just means that all of us are a part of making sure that One Cleveland is of the initiative that we support wherever we are in Northeast Ohio. So with that, I wanted to take a few minutes, and I hope that you're patient with me because the Cleveland 230 is the campaign that we've been using. So we wanted, for 230 days, we wanted to share 230 heroes of Cleveland. And so we've been sharing those in lots of 10. Each day we celebrate another hero for the city of Cleveland. Today's hero is Rabbi Abba Hillel Silver. And so if you go onto the website, you'll be able to pull up a little bit of video and his history and the things that he's done. But I wanted to share a video that went through the first 10. It's 5 minutes, so be patient. But if you look at it, you will learn something about Cleveland I Square that you did not know. And then we can talk on the other side.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leon Bibb. You know, in honor of Cleveland's 230th birthday this year, Cleveland Public Library and its 230 partners have launched One Cleveland, a civic pride campaign. A cornerstone of the campaign is celebrating 230 people who have left a lasting impact on our city. The list recognizes people, past and present, who helped Cleveland thrive and become more inclusive and unified. So come along with me on a journey as we hear their stories. We begin at the beginning with the city's founder, Moses Cleveland. In 1796, the Connecticut Land Company sent him and a party of surveyors west to survey a tract of land on the Cuyahoga River. They laid out the city streets and established our public square. The city was named in his honor. On the library shelves are fascinating stories about those who made the list, including number 2, Charles F. Brush, the inventor. One night in 1879, in front of a large crowd at Public Square, he demonstrated that streets could be lighted with electricity. At a signal from Brush, the lights turned on. The crowd cheered, a band played, and the square was as bright as day. Brush's arc lights brought Cleveland into a new age. The names on our 230 list are all bright lights. Numbering 3 and 4 are Rowena and Russell Jelliff, who founded Karamu House. That was in 1915. The settlement house they established is now known as the nation's oldest continuously performing black theater. And inside these 2 gray boxes from the main library's literature department is a testament to those performances. Here are souvenir programs for all of Karamu's plays from 1926 to 1972. A familiar name in these programs is poet and playwright Langston Hughes. He's number 5. You know, after attending Central High School in Cleveland, he became a leading writer of the Harlem Renaissance. Here at the library, you can read his works that were considered groundbreaking for how they centered the joys and struggles of Black Americans. I recommend the poem, I Too Sing America. You know, its message of inclusion shows exactly why Langston Hughes belongs on the list. Number 6 is DJ Alan Freed. He had a radio show. It debuted in Cleveland in 1951. Alan Freed played a new brand of music called rock and roll that attracted interracial audiences. Freed organized the world's first rock concert, the Moondog Coronation Ball. That was in 1952. It was held at the Cleveland Arena. Number 7, Loganberry Books owner Harriet Logan. She was nominated for how she uplifts marginalized voices by featuring people of color, women, queer folks, and other underrepresented communities in the store and at events. Number 8 is Lisa Wong, president of OCA Asian Pacific American Advocates and co-founder of the annual Cleveland Asian Festival. Lisa exemplifies what it means to be an advocate and a resource. At number 9, the community has nominated the Redcoat Volunteers. You know the Redcoats, these 2,000 wonderful, welcoming Playhouse Square greeters and ushers have donated more than 145,000 hours of their time collectively to enhance the theater experience for guests. Now, number 10 is a man known as Mr. Cleveland, Dick Hogue, senior advisor with the Jones Day Law Firm. He was nominated for his decades as a civic, business, and philanthropic leader. He has helped our city thrive by establishing numerous public-private partnerships and opened doors for many, many people. These are the first names on our 230 list. There's much more to come. Each week we'll share more names and show how they left a lasting mark on Cleveland. By the way, you can follow along on the library's social media channels and on cpl.org, where you can also find a list of recommended books and resources. Thanks for watching. Appreciate that. I'm Leon Bibb.
Thank you, Becky, for showing that. And thank you all for being so patient. So what that spoke to was the fact that those are 10 of only 220, and we had many, many more nominated from, modern day and all of others. And it just speaks to ultimately, right, the greatness of Cleveland and the greatness of the people who have been there. So with that said, I will now turn it and open it up to questions, except for any question from my 2010 mate, Tony Roccatelli. He can't ask a question. Other than that, everybody else can ask any question they'd like.
Fantastic. Felton, thank you. And yes, and I'll remind you, if you've got questions for Felton, please use the chat to drop your questions in. So what an incredible beginning. I think I told you as we were preparing for today, I've already watched that video 3 or 4 times. It's just terrific, and I'm excited to see who comes next. Can you talk a little bit about the process? You mentioned getting lots of nominations. How were the decisions made about who to recognize and who to spotlight?
So first we've had hundreds of recommendations. So we had an internal committee, and then we cut those down, and then 300 plus nominations went to an external group of 5 folks who examined them through a scoring matrix and came down to ultimately 230. And it was really, really difficult. It was very, very challenging. And so, I don't want to miss somebody if I don't see anyone. I know that our own Dan Hansen here is one of the 230. Congratulations, Dan, for all that you and your sister have done for the city of Cleveland. But again, that's how the process went.
Yeah. So as this concept, you've talked about this beginning as really a civic initiative. I'm curious about the intersection of promoting civics education and awareness and storytelling. Why was storytelling so important as a piece of this initiative?
I think it's because ultimately that's how we're going to pass down the knowledge to other folks, right? It's all around the narratives that are being said and the stories that are being told and how those are told. We're in a period where the history is being retold, right? I started to start this off with like a quote from Rage Against the Machine, right? Those who control the past control the future, and those who control the present control the past, right? Because it really those lines speak to the fact that, right, there is being a revisionist history of what happened. And until we are in a place where we can continue to tell those stories, to archive those stories, to put those stories in place, and to make sure all of us hear those stories about folks, right? And hear those, make sure those folks are elevated, so that the stories are elevated throughout history. We won't know, our story can be retold for us.
So One Cleveland, you mentioned you've got over 200 partners, and the Cleveland Leadership Center is delighted to be one of those partners. It's an incredible mix of organizations from sports and culture to education and the civic arena. What does it actually take, Felton, to align institutions that may have different missions, different audiences, and different priorities to really come together around One Cleveland?
right? So far it has been just having one mission, and that one mission is to push forward a positive agenda around the city of Cleveland, right? That is a very simple process, and I think everyone has understood that. Like as we have sent this out, we are worried that, oh, well, if this foundation is on board, this foundation might be, or if this bank is on this bank, or if this law firm and this law, everybody wants to support moving forward with the whole agenda of a better Cleveland.
Yeah. So you mentioned changing the narrative. Sometimes we're too quick as a city and as residents of the city to go to the negative. Can you talk about why it's so important to see this shift to the positive and to pride?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for any of us who have moved to the city and heard, like, I came here from Las Vegas 17 years ago, and for 3 years, I continually heard, why did you move here? Right? And I would be like, eventually, I just started to scream at people because I love it here, right? Stop asking me why I moved here, right? And I think, the city itself is self-deprecating about like ourselves and about, what we've done. But what you start to see how the city itself, like with Langston Hughes and others, have really had a major effect on so much across the country, right? You start to realize that this city is punches well above its weight, and we should talk about that on a consistent basis.
Yeah. So how are you thinking about One Cleveland in terms of balancing? And I don't want to go negative, but
Yeah.
obviously our city's not perfect, right? This incredible pride and focusing on what's good about our community is important for sure. But how do we also do that with honesty about the challenges that we're still facing?
Well, I think that there's an opportunity here for us to start especially as we increase, because hopefully we'll get a number of folks who may be a part of an organization that hasn't signed on for it, and that we get in the 300 and 400 range of organizations that are a partner with us. Is the idea of like coalition building within the One Cleveland group, because there are a lot of areas that we do need to work on, right? There is a civic literacy space that we need. We need to be more engagement around the fact that we don't vote at the levels we should. There are a variety of other things that we need to do. But in doing that, I think we have come at that from a point of here's why we're bad, 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 without having any positive, discussion around that in the first place.
Yeah. So I'm curious, in your role as CEO and champion of this initiative, why do you believe libraries play such an important role in strengthening civic identity and community connection?
I think, libraries are so underestimated around how we can do this, because we are one of those institutions that's every community. We're very well trusted, right? We don't come in with any kind of point of view. We just come in with the facts and about how we can get to the best possible answer that we possibly can. So when we decided to kind of lead this campaign, it was with the recognition that we have lots of community members who we believe we can bring to this discussion, right? And these folks, whether they're 383, they have a GED or PhD, right? They all are wanting the same thing, right? And Tony's right. We do have an amazing staff as well. And that helps us to a great deal be able to make that work.
It sure does. It sure does, Felton. So I'm interested. So somebody in the chat noticed that there is incredible synergy here in this Zoom just by the folks that are represented here. What's the best way for people who are excited and interested in One Cleveland to connect? And are you considering, as part of this effort, an in-person event?
So there are going to be a number of in-person events that will happen, and we'll start, I have a whole list, and you can go to the programs that are happening, and a whole slew of big programs that will be happening over the next year. But beyond that, I think it is incumbent upon all of us, right, to say this year, what can I do just a little bit more? How can I give just a little bit more to be like supportive of what's happening in Cleveland, right? All of us do a lot, right? It's not, we ask folks to just fill out a form, a one-page form and sign on and sign on to being one Cleveland. But beyond that, what else can I do just about being a partner? If somebody wants to put together a group of folks to talk about like the streets in the neighborhoods and things of that nature. Like, how could we if that's of interest to me, how can I take on a bigger role and join that and make sure my voice is heard? It's about voices. It's about making sure everybody is putting their voices out there and that they're a part of this.
Absolutely. There's room for everyone. So I'm interested when One Cleveland succeeds, and we're looking ahead 5 years from now, what's going to be different about how we as Clevelanders see ourselves and see our city?
Well, Destination Cleveland has started this brag campaign to get out there and brag. I think what we want to be is like that bridge. We want to make it okay for us to feel like we can brag. Like this is a group that was like, oh, we can't really talk great about our plays and we can't say this or whatever. And, I think we tie so much of it to, and I'm very appreciative of all the sports teams that have joined in and joined us because all of them are on board for One Cleveland. But a lot of our feelings about our city are tied to how our teams do, right? And it's about much more than that, right? Of course, we want the Browns to win, but we can't tie everything down to whether they win or not, because that may not go well sometimes. So we just got to tie it.
Yes, particularly poignant after the very painful conclusion of our Cavaliers season this year. But what a
Don't
season
talk about it.
but what a season they had.
We need a week. We just need a week off.
Done. All right.
Let it all go.
So I love my Cavs. All right. So there's been obviously we talked about there's been a lot of momentum around One Cleveland here in this initiative. So the public library is serving as the backbone, and we see that will continue with your leadership and your colleagues around you. But how are we really going to best sustain this beyond just a one and done kind of year and really build momentum that keeps it moving forward?
I think a lot of work is being done outside of this campaign. I went to the Greater Cleveland Partnerships event, Destination Cleveland. Everyone, I think, feels a little bit different about where we are. I think we feel like we're moving forward. I think the mayor, the county executive are working together. I think, we are seeing things that we haven't historically seen in the city around collaboration. I think, right, we are actually seeing a lot of folks working together now. Even Kip Bolin is working with people. That's an impossibility, right?
You don't take on my board chair there, Felton. Those are fighting words.
That's exactly why I brought him into it. But it's like all of us want something better, and we recognize to do that, collaboration is going to be key for us. And I think we've started to see, when I got here 17 years ago, the city was mired in silos. We're not perfect, but we're much better than we were.
Yeah. Yeah. I got here 31 years ago, and what a difference it was 17 years ago when you came compared to now. So the future is bright. My last question for you today, Felton. So tell us one Cleveland story or place or experience that gives you pride.
So I must tell a library story, right? But I tell these stories about the work that our staff does. And I went into a library, our Addison branch library, and this was about 4 years ago. And a staff, as I came out, one of the patrons that was coming out as I was walking in stopped me and goes, "You're the library director, right? I see your face on the wall." And I was like, "Uh-oh, this might not go well." And he's like, "I just want to thank you so much." He tells me the story of how his wife had left him. He had lost his job. He was down. He was left with his 3 kids. He was trying to figure out how he was going to move forward. And he just started coming to the library, and the library folks just started helping him with his kids, doing homework with them while he went out and looked for jobs and all of that. And he broke down and started crying. He said, "I just got a brand new job. I come to the library now because I want to, and I don't have to. And I just want to thank you for everything and for all your staff." That's, what makes me proud to do what I do.